Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're at question number 195. The purpose of me making these videos is really for you folks to feel ready for DevOps and SRE role interviews. I've picked out 15 topics that are most important, and in each topic I'm trying to go as deep and wide as possible, so that when you're done with the videos or when you've seen enough, you should feel confident that you're going to do well in the interview. That's my goal. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. That's nothing for you, but it actually makes a big difference in my channel. So I would really appreciate if you did do that. So as you might know from my other videos, these are the 15 most important topics that people should be studying for DevOps or SRE roles. The ones at the top are most important, of course. The ones at the bottom are not as important, but they're still not negligible. So you should spend some time on them, but sure, focus on the first 5 or 6 topics a lot more than the ones at the bottom. Okay, today's topic is actually a AWS topic, serverless topic. I don't know if serverless was a specific item in the list. No, it's not. So basically, this is an AWS topic question. So um, what here the question is, how can you work around AWS Lambda cold start? So um, you would not know what a cold start is. A cold start problem is if you haven't dealt with Lambda a whole lot. So this is where the interviewer is actually looking for evidence that you have dealt with some Lambda stuff in production. But you can do a better performance in the interview just by studying, right? So that's the idea. So what is a cold start? So first of all, to understand that, you have to understand what Lambda is. But before I get into that, just a quick reminder that Floyd Spencer is my career advisor. I'm not financially affiliated with him. This is not an ad. He's very passionate about helping people. So please sign up for his one-hour session if you happen to be at the job market today. So first of all, what is Lambda? Lambda is like if you wrote code and just directly put the code on AWS, and may that code will run when something happens, maybe a webhook is triggered or something like that. So you're not putting that in a container, even though Amazon is behind the scene. You're not provisioning containers, you're not provisioning servers, nothing like that. Just the code. That's what Lambda is. The problem with Lambda, one of the problems with Lambda is, let's say that you haven't, this particular Lambda function hasn't been hit in a while. So the first time is hit after a while, it has to do all its initialization. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's a super fast initialization, no big deal. But a lot of the functions do need to come up, if you will, right? That particular time can be, 100 milliseconds or a second, right? And that is not good enough for a lot of the applications. So how do you avoid or work around this cold start problem? So there are 3 main strategies here, and there's some details I'm going to go over. But for your answer, as long as you know the main 3 topics, then you're good to go. You shouldn't have to know, or at least you shouldn't have to memorize all the details about it. So first of all, you have to optimize your installations to begin with. So if you're loading libraries, you're loading large code base or whatever, right? You should try to minimize that as much as possible, so that you're not the function doesn't need to do 50 billion things before it starts to answer the request from the user, right? So for example, if we have if we don't need the dependencies to be loaded right away, they can be loaded later, so that the request is answered. If you need a connection to the database, but you don't need them. I mean, you can do two. If you don't need them right away, you can load them later. But you can also keep a connection running all the time using something called proxy, right? You can do that. That way, the Lambda function doesn't have to wait for the database connection to come up. So that's one strategy. The second main category of strategy is using what's called the provisioning concurrency. What that means is, if you know that your application takes a long time to come up, maybe you can have one instance of this running all the time. That is not possible. It wasn't possible actually when I was dealing with it a couple of years ago. So you can do that. But also, let's say that you know your traffic pattern. So if you do, maybe you leave 100 of them running before your peak starts, right? So this is called a provision concurrency. So basically, you're having parallel version of this running before the traffic is hit. The third main category is actually reducing the size of your function, right? So let's say that you have files that are loaded, or you have large libraries that are loaded. If they're not needed, right, you reduce the footprint of your package size to begin with. So it doesn't it takes quicker time to actually load your function. It doesn't take a second or two or three to load all the files that it needs to load, if that's possible. Sometimes it's not possible. So these are the three main ways to deal with what's called a cold start problem with serverless functions. I hope you found this useful. If you have questions, you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can just leave a comment below. I will see you next time.